Hello, this is part of the Seven Giants series of talks on the world's global powers. Now, this talk is on India. India is a very interesting case because of its shift from being aligned with the Soviet Union, then being because of the Soviet Union's antagonism towards China, the border wars that India has had towards China, the political assassinations that India has experienced, the role of the Gandhi family in Indian politics, and the development of the country from a non-aligned situation after the fall of the Soviet Union to um, with an independent foreign policy, um, and was still quite hostile to the United States because of their support for Pakistan and especially the ISI. Now, of course, as it turns out, the ISI in Pakistan, the Inter-Services Intelligence Agency, betrayed their loyalty to America, and helped fund Al Qaeda, of course. Now, this has massive caused massive tension with India, especially with the recent shootings in um, the Indian city of Mumbai, because of the links with Pakistan's links with Al Qaeda, with their support for Kashmiri terrorists who want Kashmir independent from India. Now, this is all part of a wider problem for India. India has over 1,500 different languages. It has thousands of different ethnic groups, and then, to make matters even more complicated, it has the repressive caste system, which is, I would say, is much worse than apartheid. Millions of people in India are killed every year by the police because they're enforcing the caste system to keep law and order. That is, that there are classes of people in India called the untouchables, who cannot be, if they clean the sewers, they do all the dirty manual jobs that the Brahmins, who are the top class of people, or so they think themselves to be, as they would call themselves, the top class, who are mostly the business elite, the royal elite in India, although India is effectively a republic because it has a president and a prime minister, but it's also within the Commonwealth of Nations, which used to be the British Commonwealth, with its head as the head of state as the Queen of England, in a sense. Was in effect a way to try and keep the old British Empire together, but it failed. Now, India's a Hindu nationalist country. It has a massive military, probably second in terms of numbers to China, but nowhere near as effective. It is not as well trained as the Pakistani army, or as well as equipped. But India is developing power projection in the form of a navy and air force which can do missions abroad. It is also heavily involved in UN security missions, providing the bulk of forces in such places as Rwanda, as in Somalia. The Indian 10th Mountain Division basically rescued the Americans in Somalia under the auspices of the UN, and of course was helped by American firepower, which basically reduced the Somalis' numbers down by about 3,000 people, insurgents, I might add. Now, India made its leap forward in a similar way to China, but it's not been as effective. India tried to go for a high technology approach through communications, through call centres. After many white elephant projects, this has really benefited the urban population, whilst the rural population live in poverty worse than some parts of sub-Saharan Africa. And that could be down to the caste system. And why I think India is a slumbering giant is because of its social economic problems, its internal problems. It is an absolute travesty, in my opinion, and you may think this is immoral, that we are giving aid to India, aid to a country that represses its own people, and yet is sending satellites into space to make a communications network for itself to rival the European Union, when the European Union, and Britain especially, is giving money to India to help its poor, to put wells in, and basic sanitation and basic cooking utensils for people, when the Indian government itself won't do that for its own people. India is a military power. It is also a massive economic power. Some people said, and I think this is overblown, to say that India was the third largest economy in the world about 3 years ago. That, to me, just doesn't make any sense. It has, in Mittal steel, a lot of heavy industry, a lot of production for exports, but its actual economy itself, it has taken 100 million people out of poverty, but the actual living standard for most people is in extreme poverty. And that's because of Indian society. Some Chinese people live below the poverty line of sub-Saharan Africa, but they are not in extreme poverty in terms of actual their living standards. They have enough water, they have enough food, they have good education for their children, because the state provides that, whereas in India it does not. Now, the whole problem for India is, how does it get these nearly 1 billion people out of poverty and actually make an effective society? And that won't be done through economics, and it won't be done through military power. It won't be done through power projection against Somali pirates, or against Pakistan, or patrolling the Indian Ocean. All these ambitions India has. It will be done through social reforms to prevent caste violence. Thousands of people are killed every year in caste violence, and also between Hindu nationalists and fundamentalist Muslims. After Indonesia, India has the second largest Muslim population in the world. Most of them are not fundamentalist Muslims, but really India's economic growth is actually stressing its population. It's not providing the basic infrastructure that is needed it is still in making a white elephant mode. It has high-speed electric trains, but for people who cannot afford high-speed electric train fares, because they have not even the means to cook their food or have clean running water. So India's aspirations are far greater than its actual ability, and I think its economic power is very much overrated. Okay, that might be a controversial view, but it is my view from the research I've done. Okay, thank you, bye.